Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a question that I think a lot of people might have. How do you actually break into cybersecurity if, your background isn't the typical tech one?
Right. We're looking at those non-traditional paths.
Exactly, and specifically the role apprenticeships might play in, well, making these careers a bit more accessible.
Yeah, and we've got a really fascinating mix of sources for you today. First, there's this Reddit thread from someone with a truly unique resume. I
Hmm.
mean, stage hypnotist, locksmith, psychology researcher,
Wow, okay.
stage hypnotist and network security,
I know, right?
and locksmithing skills. How does that even apply digitally? My mind's already kind of buzzing with possibilities.
Mine too. And then we also have a resource guide. This one's on federal cybersecurity apprenticeships. It's from the National Cyberwatch Center.
Okay.
And we'll also dig into a NIST report, that's the National Institute of Standards and Technology, about um, measuring workforce capabilities in cyber. Got it. So our mission today is basically to unpack how someone with this, well, incredibly diverse background might find a way in, and what these other routes, like apprenticeships, can really offer.
And it's such a timely discussion, I think.
Hmm.
The cybersecurity field, it really needs a wider range of talents, different perspectives.
For sure. Relying only on traditional IT folks might actually be holding us back.
Could be limiting our potential, absolutely.
Okay, so let's dive into this Reddit thread first. The user, Seamless Entropy, quite a name.
Right, yeah.
They have this pre-med background, studied psychology, even biomechanics, and applied neurology. I mean, definitely not your standard cyber applicant.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And they mentioned this long-standing interest in knowledge that enabled me to do things outside the norm. A friend in cyber suggested a few certs.
Ah, the certifications. Always the first suggestion, it seems.
Right. But what's fascinating is how the Reddit community reacted. The CEH certified ethical hacker that got dismissed pretty quickly.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things about that one. More theory than practice sometimes.
That's the common sentiment, yeah.
Yeah.
That it's maybe more about memorization than like real demonstrable skill, which
Mm.
employers really want now.
Okay. And the others, CCNA, CIMIC Plus.
Those were seen as more for traditional IT roles, and even OSCP Offensive Security Certified Professional, some folks thought it was getting a bit dated.
Right. And this feeds directly into that common advice, doesn't it? That cybersecurity is not entry level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That you need years in general IT first.
The whole help desk, sysadmin, network admin, then cyber analyst or pentester route.
Which could take, what, 5, 10 years?
Yeah, that's a huge time commitment, especially if you're trying to earn an income, while maybe pursuing other goals too, like this user was.
Precisely. And it highlights this real tension, doesn't it? The need for experienced pros versus the need to bring in new talent. Those traditional paths can be pretty rigid.
They might not recognize the value and skills from, well, totally different fields.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, okay, here's where it got really interesting on that thread. Amidst some of the maybe discouraging replies, some really insightful advice popped up, like focusing on skill development, not just collecting certs. And then this idea, focusing on cyber culture or human factor.
Ah, yes. That's the key turning point. Suddenly that psychology background, the stage hypnotism experience,
Right. Understanding influence, human behavior.
it becomes a potential strength.
Yeah.
And the locksmithing. That suggests an aptitude for understanding vulnerabilities, how systems work, how they can be, well, manipulated, even physical ones.
It's that aha moment, isn't it? Someone even linked to a security scorecard article about the human factor being critical.
Yes. All those skills that seemed unrelated, they could actually offer a really unique edge in areas like social engineering.
Which is a huge part of the threat landscape today.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And it really challenges that old idea that you need a purely technical background. Which brings us nicely to our second source.
The National Cyberwatch Center Guide on Federal Apprenticeships.
Exactly. This offers a potential structure, maybe, for how someone like our Reddit user could find a way in. Because maybe those traditional routes aren't the best fit for everyone.
Okay, so let's unpack apprenticeships then. The guide uses definitions from NICE and NIST, right?
Yeah, the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education and NIST.
And fundamentally, they're about building job-ready talent. But importantly, it says they're pathways for career switchers, people maybe without advanced degrees.
Which sounds perfect for our learners' situation.
Totally. And the benefits listed seem spot on, too. You earn wages while learning.
Huge.
You get an industry-recognized credential at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And you develop real practical skills through that on-the-job training.
And some programs might even offer college credits or help you get certifications along the way. For someone needing income, like our Redditor, it tackles that immediate financial hurdle for career switchers.
Yeah, that's critical. But here's something that surprised me in the guide. It mentions that despite private sector use, back in April 2021 when it was written,
Mhm.
there were no known programs in federal agencies.
Yeah, that does seem like a big gap, doesn't it? Especially given the government's own massive cybersecurity needs.
You'd think they'd be all over this.
Well, the guide does strongly argue why apprenticeships are so important, especially for equity and inclusion.
How so?
By providing paid, structured training, they open doors for people from all sorts of backgrounds, people who might not have had access to the usual tech pathways.
Right, breaking down those barriers.
And cyber isn't just one job, right? It's tons of different roles. An apprenticeship can help someone find their niche and build skills for it, regardless of their background.
Makes sense. The guide gives some examples of models, though mostly outside the federal government, you said?
Yeah, like Howard Community College, partnering with AT&T for an IT apprenticeship. That was like 18-24 months, Classroom Plus on the job.
And leads to CompTIA certs and associate's degrees. That sounds pretty comprehensive.
It really does. That blend of theory and practice makes people valuable much faster.
What else?
There's Right Varsity Technologies, focusing on workforce immersion apprenticeships, structured learning, better retention for employers.
Mhm.
It's a win-win.
Okay.
And the CICS HBCU program, that was explicitly aiming to fix the skill shortage and boost diversity in the field.
That's great. It also mentions the Department of Labor having profiles showing apprenticeships are already established, even in the military.
Exactly. And it even lists roles like cybersecurity and information technology within the civil service in one of its figures. So the framework for federal apprenticeships exists even if specific cybersecurity ones were maybe lagging back in 2021.
So the precedent is there.
Definitely. And the guide talks about ways the feds could adopt cyber apprenticeships more widely.
Like what?
Maybe having external organizations manage them, or hybrid public-private deals like the Cybersecurity Talent Initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even just beefing up existing federal internship programs, making them longer, more structured. These could lower the barriers for non-traditional folks.
Okay, but it can't be that simple. The guide must mention challenges for federal adoption, right?
Oh, absolutely. Things like uncertainty around hiring authorities, the whole security clearance process,
Always a hurdle.
OPM's degree requirements potentially getting in the way.
Ah, the Office of Personnel Management.
Yeah, and the legitimate concern that they train someone up and then they leave for a higher paying private sector job.
That's a classic government problem, isn't it?
It is. These are real bureaucratic hurdles. But the guide suggests solutions too.
Such as?
Clearer guidance on hiring rules, getting OPM support for, innovative hiring, and maybe using virtual training to reach more people.
Virtual training makes a lot of sense. And what about making sure the training actually lines up with job needs?
The focus there is on high priority skills, stuff that maps to certs people want: network security, threat knowledge, compliance.
The practical stuff.
Exactly. Plus hands-on projects, learning from experienced pros, and definitely those interpersonal or soft skills. And importantly, structuring programs maybe with no strict prerequisites to really attract a diverse group. That fits our Redditor perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. It also mentions something called Jobs for the Future Essentials for a high-quality pre-apprenticeship program.
Right. That highlights things like transparent entry, making sure the curriculum matches employer needs, getting industry credentials, lots of hands-on learning, exploring career options.
And a clear path into a full registered apprenticeship afterward.
Exactly. That kind of support structure could be huge for someone changing careers.
So looking at the overall value, what's the bottom line from the guide? Is there good ROI data?
Yeah, actually. It shows apprenticeships having significantly higher conversion rates, meaning people getting hired after the program, and better retention after a year compared to traditional interns or co-ops.
Or better retention.
Apparently so. Plus, potentially lower hiring costs for the employer and access to a much wider, more diverse talent pool, including those career changers.
And it specifically mentioned higher rates of diverse hires in these programs.
It did, which, paints a really convincing picture. It's not just a nice to have, it's strategic.
Makes good business sense, especially in cyber, where talent is scarce and different perspectives are actually an advantage.
Precisely. You need different ways of thinking to tackle complex security problems.
Okay, this links really well to our final source and this idea of skills-based hiring. If degrees and job titles aren't the whole story.
How do we assess what someone can actually do?
Exactly. And that's where the NIST report on measuring workforce capabilities comes in.
Right. The National Defense Authorization Act for 2021 basically tasked NIST with looking at how well we're currently measuring proficiency against the NICE framework tasks.
The NICE framework being the standard list of cybersecurity work, roles, and tasks.
Yeah, essentially. And the key insight here is that just having a cert or a degree doesn't automatically mean you're proficient at doing the actual job tasks in the real world.
Okay, so NIST looked at proficiency scales. What is that exactly?
It's basically a defined set of levels describing capability in a specific area. Think like beginner to expert,
Yeah.
but clearly defined. And you use these scales with assessments. The main point is real workplace proficiency needs practical application.
Got it. And what makes a good proficiency scale, according to NIST?
A few key things. One, it needs to be demonstrative. It assesses capability through doing things, observable results, not just knowing things.
Okay, like actually configuring something, not just answering questions about it.
Exactly, like configuring a firewall to meet requirements and explaining why, rather than just knowing protocol names. Showing, not telling.
Makes sense. What else?
It should consider the level of supervision needed. Can you do it alone, or do you need guidance?
Oh, okay.
And third, it needs to include those professional or soft skills, communication, teamwork, critical thinking. Those are vital in cyber roles.
Absolutely. The report also stressed defining proficiency by capability, not just career level or job title, right?
Yes, this is so important. Someone new could be highly proficient in a specific area, maybe leveraging skills from a past career.
Like our Reddit user. Their psychology background might mean higher proficiency in, say, developing security awareness training or certain social engineering tactics.
Precisely. Even if they're new to cyber overall, their unique skills give them capability.
So what kind of scales exist now? Did NIST give examples?
Yeah, they reviewed several. Educational ones like Bloom's taxonomy, but also ones used in government like the 5-level scales from DHS and OPM Basic to Expert, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And an NIH scale focused on progression from learning to applying to strategic thinking.
You also mentioned SFIA earlier, Skills Framework for the Information Age.
Right, SFIA. It's a widely used IT skills framework. What's interesting about their levels of responsibility is they look beyond just technical skill.
How so?
They factor in things like autonomy, influence, and the complexity of tasks someone handles. It's a more nuanced view of progression than just knows more technical stuff. It includes leadership, strategy.
That sounds much more holistic.
It does. But here's the catch.
Uh-oh.
Despite all these frameworks and knowing we need to measure skills well, the NIST report concluded that current efforts to consistently measure proficiency against the NIST framework, they're still insufficient.
So we know what skills are needed, but we're not great at measuring how good people are at them yet.
Pretty much. It's an ongoing challenge, which means there's a big opportunity to develop better assessment methods.
Maybe things like realistic simulations, scenario-based tests.
Could be. Things that might better capture those transferable skills people bring from non-traditional backgrounds. So for you listening, if you're eyeing federal cyber jobs, these are some systemic issues being worked on.
Yeah, it shows the field is still evolving, still figuring things out.
But it also shows a growing recognition that valuable skills come from many places, not just the standard IT path.
Okay, let's bring this all back home. For our original Reddit user, Seamless Entropy, what are the big takeaways from this deep dive?
Well, first off, that non-traditional background, it's not a liability.
No, it seems like a potential asset. The psychology, the hypnotism, understanding human behavior, the locksmithing's practical problem solving.
Exactly. Skills surprisingly valuable for cyber, especially social engineering, physical security, maybe even human factors roles.
Right, and while the traditional route might be tough without standard IT experience,
Apprenticeships look like a really promising alternative.
yeah, they offer that paid, on-the-job training, the credentials, maybe bypassing degree requirements and getting relevant skills faster.
It seems like a much more direct path for someone in that situation.
And the whole landscape seems to be shifting, doesn't it? This move towards skills-based hiring, the work on proficiency scales.
It suggests a future where diverse experiences and demonstrated abilities are valued more.
Definitely. And even if federal apprenticeships were lagging in 2021, the fact that they're being discussed and explored signals potential future opportunities there too.
Which leads to a question for you, our listener. Especially if, like our Redditor, you have a background that isn't typical tech, but you're curious about cyber.
Yeah, how could your unique mix of skills and experiences, whatever they are, fit into cybersecurity?
Particularly thinking about that human element of security, which is so often the weakest link.
Definitely some food for thought there.
Yeah.
Maybe check out resources on social engineering or human factors in security.
Could a pre-apprenticeship, maybe focused on those areas, be a way for you to bridge your current expertise with the technical side?
It certainly seems like exploring these alternative paths could uncover some really fascinating possibilities.